Hello, everybody. And I forgot to do the light. So just a second. There we go. Be a little bit easier to see now. A little bit brighter. So there we go. I forgot to turn the light on before I started. Just wait a couple minutes, make sure that everything is up and running, wait till people join us. Yep, we got 8 people already. So welcome, ladies, and hello. Oh, good. I see 68 of you are signed up for my text. That is awesome. So if you never want to miss a live show again, just text gently led, all lowercase, to something, I can't remember what, 31 something. I got to go look at it. I got to go look at what it is. I always forget what it is. It's in my description of my video. So let me look. That's not it. Let me look here. Okay. I just copied everything on her video as well. 31966. Thank you, Matt. You would think I would have that written down or memorized by now, but I do not. So text gently led to 31996. The second one's right, correct? I never found it. So 31996. Go ahead and text gently led to that. 68 of you are signed up for the text, which is great. I know Brother Paul is having another live stream right at this exact minute. So those 17 of you right now, Karen and Ashley and Celine and Morgan, all of you, Brother Matt even, Daughter of the King, Nicole, Jessica, Ashley, Miss Lady Winter, you guys are all my loyal fan base that you're here. You're not listening to the more coronavirus stuff on Brother Paul's. So I am in the process. And before I get started, let's do the whole spiel. Like, subscribe, share this video, comment, all that good stuff. It helps the algorithm and get them out there more. I really want to hit 2,000 subscribers here before long. So you guys got to help me reach that, okay? I've been stuck forever. We need to get to the 2K subscribers. So when you share the videos and like them and comment, it helps get it out there more so more people see it. So let's hit that 2,000 for sure. So, but I am going to, about every month or so, go through and look at some of the old videos that I did that are no longer on our YouTube page. And I'm going to try to kind of redo them because I know there was a lot of good ones and a lot of people. I actually had a lady in our church ask me to do this specific one that we're talking about tonight. She was wondering what to do about unsaved family or friends, people that just think she's crazy, and family that thinks she's crazy, and family that's always making comments to her about her stands and, you know, about being a Christian and all that. So I really wanted to go through and do these all over again. So I'm going to be doing the older shows over again. Leslie and I had started a series starting with babies and going up through teens, you know, kind of each stage of raising children. And I'm going to try to redo those again as well. Maybe have some guests on to help me with that. So look for those as well. So they did not get taken down. I set them on private because they had Leslie in them, and I did that for her privacy and things of that nature. So that is why I put most of them on private. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into this subject tonight about dealing with unsaved family members after you've been saved. Okay, so after you get saved, maybe you were saved later in life, and you your life starts changing. You know, you start becoming a disciple of Christ, and obviously, you know, being a disciple is different than salvation. Yes, Leslie is fine. Leslie is fine. She is raising her children and doing well. So she is fine. But yeah, we're going to be talking about a subject that's near and dear to many of you. You know, I know because you have been saved later in life. So hopefully I can be in help when it comes to the subject. So, you know, salvation is very easy. And if you have not watched it already, go ahead and watch my video about the Bible Way to Heaven for women and everybody, obviously. It's very easy because Jesus Christ did all of the work. But being a disciple of Christ is a little bit different matter. Being a disciple actually takes work on our part, to become close to Christ and follow his commandments. The Bible says, if you love me, you keep my commandments. So it takes work on our part to be a disciple. It does not take work on our part to be saved. Two separate things. So Luke 14:26 says, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. So, obviously the word hate here doesn't mean that you have to literally like tell your parents, I hate you, I don't want anything to do with you. I think what it's talking about is just having our priorities in order. If our love for Christ does not exceed that of our family, then our priorities are not in the right order. And if our love for anything does not exceed our love for Christ, if our love for our possessions or money or property or, anything, any type of God in America, if our love for Christ does not exceed that, then we truly aren't his disciples. So I kind of wanted to talk more in lines tonight about what happens when we are a disciple of Christ and we are trying to obey him, keep his commandments, our life changes, and our family sees that and they criticize us for it. What should be our response? What should be our response to that? Oh, that's nice, Melissa Lynn. She said, yay, Monday night, Gently Led Sisters is a much welcome slice of normalcy. I'm trying to keep it normal. The one good thing about being quarantined is at least these live shows don't have to stop, right? So that's another good thing about doing online piano lessons. That's another good thing about homeschooling. My life has not drastically changed that much, thank goodness. So that is one nice thing, is that it hasn't really changed that much. So, so you tell me, you're like, I'm saved, I'm growing as a Christian, my family thinks I'm changing and listening to preaching. Because I'm doing this, I'm in a cult. So what should my response be when I'm criticized for doing these things? And our church just recently, this past week, came under a lot of fire from local people. And they had found out about some things that we believe, and they were going after my husband pretty hard. And my husband preached a really good message on Sunday called What the Wicked, and Matt, you might have to help me out with this too. I'm really bad at titles. How the wicked react to love, or something along those lines. And he was basically showing how Jesus came to earth. He was perfect. Jesus never did any sin. He never sinned. And yet people still turned on him. And they said horrible things about him. They had false witnesses against him, accusations that weren't true. And even though he spoke love and he preached love, what the wicked people did with it was very, very telling. So as Christians, obviously we're not Christ and we're not perfect like Christ. But as we strive to be more like him, we're going to get false accusations. We're going to be hated of the world because we are not of the world. We're going to be hated by people, and the servant is not above his master. If Jesus Christ himself was persecuted, then we can expect no less from from the world. So, but, when it comes to homeschooling, when you're criticized for homeschooling, what are some things that you have heard? You guys need to help me out on this show. I want you throwing out ideas and, kind of interacting with me a little bit on this. Throw out questions if you have them. Throw out examples that have happened in your own life. Throw out stories maybe that have happened with you when it comes to unsaved family members. But I know a lot of times you're criticized for maybe homeschooling. Maybe you pulled your kids out of public school and your friends and family, they just don't understand. Why would you be that drastic? Why would you do that? And they tell you, well, what about socialization? Which all of us that homeschool our kids and are in a good church, we kind of laugh at that, because I feel like my kids get so much socialization and they're around, 3 services a week. We're here all day on Sunday. So they're around their friends here at church all day on Sunday. We have Wednesday night. You do field trips with church, members, you have different church functions. So my kids do get a lot of socialization. So that's just silly anyways. And then the socialization that they do or they do have is always within earshot or around people that can kind of keep an eye on it. So I found that kids that aren't in the public school setting, they're usually a lot more outgoing and a lot happier because they've never been bullied. And honestly, my kids have never been bullied. And I think that's a good thing because I really think that bullying really is detrimental to self-confidence and self-esteem. So I have found that homeschool kids usually have a better self-esteem. They have better self-confidence. They're able to interact with adults much better than kids that are never around adults, are able to do. So I have found that socialization, that whole argument is void. It doesn't even make sense. So, maybe bring up some statistics if people get on, if they're really, really just harping about it, harping about you taking your kids out of the public school. What about socialization? Kind of bring that stuff up. We go to church, they're around friends there. They get plenty of socialization. My kids, when we're in a grocery store or something, they'll talk to everyone. They're not shy of anyone. That has its pros and its cons. So, kind of bring that up. But I'm trying not to miss these comments as I do it. How the wicked respond to love. That is the message of, that's the name of the message my husband preached. It's really good. So, I know, Celine, you have told me before that you had a hard time in public school and you really were bullied quite a bit. So, I'm sorry that you had to go through that for sure. And I definitely think homeschooling helps in that. Thank you, 6 million. That's funny. Should someone who only has one child homeschool? Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, someone who only has one child, think of all the time that you're just going to get to spend training that child and really, really focusing on that child. You're probably going to raise a genius having all that time to focus on the child. So I definitely think, definitely. I mean, they're going to learn all the socialization they need, just interacting with you, interacting with adults. So they're going to be pretty smart. Low education. A lot of unsaved people will say, well, when you homeschool, it's low education. They're not smart, which that's just ridiculous because I actually had the chance to tutor for a year. A boy that was he had come from the public school and he was, I think, the same age as my second son, around there. And when I tested him, he had been passing in public school, but when I tested him in his in the placement test, he scored years and years behind. The only thing that he really scored equal with his grade level, I believe, was spelling. Everything else, he was way, way behind. He was officially in eighth or ninth grade, and he scored in 5th grade math. So, when you have the one-on-one time with your kids, you're going to be able to see their weaknesses. You're going to be able to see where maybe they're lacking, and you're going to be able to help target those specific areas. I've even heard of some homeschool families where they'll take maybe just take a couple weeks and just put all other things aside, the non-essentials, and focus only on like math. If their child's really, really struggling with math, they focus only on math for a couple weeks. Or if their child is really, really struggling with composition, English, things like that, they'll focus only on that for a couple of weeks. And that's a nice thing about homeschooling, whereas some kids might slip through the cracks. And I believe that is what was happening with the boy that I was tutoring. So there's just so many. The student to teacher ratio is just so large. Like you'll have 40 students to one teacher. That's huge. And, the teacher can't keep up constantly. The parents don't care. So kids have a tendency of slipping through the cracks. Whereas your children really shouldn't because you're on top of things, they're at home. So a lot of people have this misconception that you won't even do school. It's a free for all. My kids are probably doing more school now than most of the kids in America because our life hasn't changed much. So it's business as usual. They really didn't even get a spring break. I'm actually down to taking off Mondays now, which we used to do all the time because we're on target to get done with our school year in this month in April. So I'm actually kind of slowing them down a little bit because we got too far ahead. But because we only took 1 week off in December, we only took a few days off for Thanksgiving. We took no spring break. We haven't taken vacation. So we're kind of ahead when it comes to that. Sorrow vision. Yes, those are good tips. We're not talking about that right now, but he said, be confident with a memorized great gospel presentation. Confirm your presentation by practicing on strangers until you get one person saved, and use the same presentation on your family and friends, which we might be talking about that a little bit later, about just presenting the gospel and things like that. So, and then let's go to, so that's all has to do with homeschooling. You know, those are just some things that, those are some common things that people say. And, you know, maybe you can just gently correct them and kind of just stand your ground when it comes to that. So Karen said, hopefully things will change. Now our schools are closed for the rest of the school year. Now we can show Unsaved family that we are more prepared for the future. And like I said before, you know, most of us on here, we homeschooled before it was cool, right? We homeschooled before it was cool. And now it's like the whole new, you know, it's new. It's the whole new thing to do. So, but yeah, that is good. You know, show them, help them. If they have questions now, this is a good time where if you have unsaved family and friends that are just thrown into this and they, you know, just help them nicely. Don't be like, well, I know what I'm doing, you know, don't be a know-it-all and don't be arrogant about it. Just help them out when it comes to, if they have questions, you know, direct them to shows like the one I did last week with Karen, where she has all the resources lined out. You know, direct them to that and say, here's a great tool. Here's some great tools you can use. You know, here's some great websites. You know, this will make it easier for you. Just get a good printer and then, you know, you're good to go. So help out in a nice way. What about when it comes to dressing modestly? This is a big issue. And it's funny because some of the hate that's been directed our way this week was people saying that my husband demands that all women wear skirts, which I think is hilarious because he has never put pressure on the ladies that come here to wear skirts only. And I think it's because people who know me or have seen all my Facebook posts, my public Facebook posts, me and my girls are in skirts. So because we're in skirts, they just kind of think that he like hammers it in the women's heads. One of the things that was also said too, though, was that he held a woman down who visited and screamed in her face that she needed to submit to her husband, which most of you who know my husband know that's just so far-fetched. And I don't know where people come up with this stuff. It's so out there. It's funny. And I have to laugh at it because it's so crazy. And it looks like Angie Thrasher's kids got a hold of her phone because she did a lot of funny symbols. So Sheila asked, what are your thoughts on trying to get family and friends saved that use drugs? I say go for it. I mean, they need salvation just like anyone. And I have family members that before they were saved, they were on drugs. And they ended up getting saved. And for a little while after they were saved, they still continued to use the drugs. And it took a few months before they finally said, I need to give this up because, you know, they were like, they knew salvation had already happened, not based off their works. They didn't give up the drugs to get saved. But a few months after learning more about God and going to church, they said, I need to give these up. And it was hard. And it was a process because, you know, they would try to get clean and then they would go back and do it one time and then regret it. But eventually they did break the cycle and they have been drug free for years and years and years now. So it can be done. You know, same with alcoholic, but I do think that it will be a battle for the rest of their life and they'll always be susceptible to falling back into that. So if they do fall back into that, that doesn't make them any less saved. But obviously drugs and alcohol and things like that bring consequences in your life. So that's just one thing to remember too. So Angie, I figured. That's so funny. Jen said, I got made fun of by a family member when I started dressing modestly. It's crazy that people care what you do with yourself and your family. And it really is. And I don't know if they think it's a holier than thou type attitude. I've never tried to come across that way. I dress the way I do because I'm a lady and I'm a Christian, and my daughters do the same. And I've never tried coming off as haughty about it, or I'm better than you for it, because I'm not. I'm not better than anyone just because of the way I dress. But I do it to be an example of femininity, and then also just to bring glory to the Savior, bring glory to God, because I don't feel that dressing immodestly brings glory to God. You're drawing attention to yourself, and you're drawing attention to certain body parts. And I don't think that's honoring to God. And when he talks about, adorning yourself in modest apparel and things. So that's the reason I dress modestly. So Vanessa said, my kid said, Mama, you've been preparing us for this whole time. We're homebodies and eat at home a lot anyway. You're welcome, kids. That's cute. So, when it comes to dressing modestly, just dress modestly. Don't go around preaching about it to everyone. And, don't condemn them if they don't dress like you. That's just kind of a given. You want to be like, why are you wearing that? Especially if they're unsaved, they're not going to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And I really think that's why women get criticized sometimes, is one, maybe they do have a holier than thou attitude. I don't think any of you ladies do. I'm just saying, maybe they take it as that. Maybe they take it as that, and it's not even how you are. But, if you are constantly preaching it, modesty and standards is something I believe that comes after salvation and after someone has grown, and it needs to be their conviction alone. It can't be something that they're forced to do, because if they don't believe it in their heart, then it's not a true conviction. It's not a true standard. I never like it when ladies just do it, well, just because the pastor and his wife does it, or, it's as a way to fit in the church or whatever. I truly believe it needs to be a standard and a conviction from your own heart, and because you feel a certain way about it. So Jessica, that's a good point. I think that does come across sometimes. She said, any change my mom sees, she thinks I've been forced by my husband. Yeah. And that's another impression you don't want to give off. You don't be, I'm pretty independent anyways. And whenever I have a conviction about something, I do try to make it like it is my conviction, not like, oh, well, my husband likes it better when I do this. And, sometimes my husband does like it better when I do things. But when I'm explaining it to friends and family, I don't have it come across that way. You know what I mean? Because once again, they're not going to understand submission, biblical submission at all. It goes against the grain of feminists in this world. They're not going to understand biblical submission. I believe that you can show biblical submission rather than, harp about it or talk about it, just in your actions, how you treat your husband, how you interact with him in front of them. I think that says things way more loudly than your words ever would. So, and yeah, that might be it too, KJV disciples. They said it's because we go against the world, not doing what the world is doing. And I think deep down, it makes them feel bad. Maybe it makes them aware of some things that aren't quite right in their own life. And so, when a light is shining, a light illuminates sin, and a light illuminates other things that are going on in someone's life. So I think that might be kind of why it makes them feel bad as well. So, so how do you respond? I'd like to hear some of your guys' response. When you've been asked before, why do you dress a certain way? How do you respond? I've been asked this a lot. I started wearing skirts pretty much all the time when I was about 17, 18 years old. And I remember going to music camps and having all the girls and guys there that asked me, like, why do you wear a skirt every day? And I would tell them, because I'm a Christian. And my husband was always like, you shouldn't say because you're a Christian. You should say because you're a girl, and girls wear skirts. But I'm like, no, that's not, I do it. My personal conviction is because I am a Christian, and I want to bring glory and honor to God by the way I dress and by the way I present myself and by being ladylike and feminine. And in this world where they're trying to blur this distinction between the sexes, I think it's our duty as Christian women to kind of go above and beyond in how we appear to the world. So those are my reasonings. I want to hear your guys' reasonings. What have you said to people? Maybe I'll change what I say to people based off what you guys say. If you have something better that seems better when people ask you, but I have been asked this question before. when I used to work at the academy in town, I was asked this by other teachers, why do you always wear skirts? And I was like, it's just a personal conviction of mine because I'm a Christian. So that's what I would tell them. So what are some things that you say? Hi, Julia. We miss you, of course. Sheila says, I just say I'm a skirt girl. That's nice and simple. I just like skirts. I'm a skirt girl. Celine says, I'd say because it's cute. Jen says, my response can range. Sometimes say because it's important to dress like a lady, especially in these times with the gender lines being blurred. Sometimes I bring up what the Bible says about it. Yvonne said, the only person that's asked that is my side of the family, and they don't seem very genuine when they ask. It's more in a sarcastic tone, but I just smile and say it's a personal conviction. So I would say it depends too on who you're talking to. If you have a Christian, maybe a newly saved Christian friend that is truly genuinely wondering, you could give a more in-depth explanation of why you do. You could turn to the verses in the Bible that talk about adorning yourself in modest apparel. You could turn to the verses that talk about, it's an abomination for a woman to put on a man's garment, and vice versa. And you could kind of show more in depth. But if it's someone that's unsaved, family member or friend, and they're questioning, I would probably just keep it simple. Well, I do it because I'm a lady. I do it because I'm a Christian. Something just basic and simple. So Morgan, and I kind of do something along those lines. It makes me feel more feminine. My family tried tell me I have to wear nightgown dresses. And when I asked them to show me in the Bible, they had nothing to say. The whole nightgown, pajama pants, that is more of a personal conviction as well, because it's in your home. No one's going to see that. I do it a lot for testimony's sake when I'm out and about. So I don't feel necessarily it's a sin to wear pajama pants to bed, or you have to wear a nightgown. In fact, nightgowns can actually be more modest than pajama pants, in my opinion, because they ride up. So, and the Bible does talk about nakedness being the thigh. So I think that nightgowns can be more modest in some situations. Now, nightgowns with leggings underneath, something like that would be fine. So that's something you have to decide for your own home, and you figure out what your stance is on that. But personally, I don't see it as a sin or, an abomination, anything like that. So, homemade dresses. That's kind of interesting. Oh, daughter of the king, I know who you are. That makes sense then, that they would say homemade dresses. Yeah, there's a lot of weird beliefs out there, and there really is no Bible to back it up. With you, I would say it's more tradition, and that's just what they've been taught. So, I could see that with you, but there is no biblical backing for that, for sure. And then Karen said, I like to explain how I just want to be more pleasing to God, and changing clothing has to be one of the easiest things one can do. Good answer. I like that answer. You're so good with your words. So, and I've always said that your actions are going to speak louder than your words. So you don't have to harp on everything you do. You don't have to beat your chest. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. Just live it. Just live your beliefs. And I'm not saying never say anything about it, because I'm not one of these like lifestyle evangelism people either. But it's just all about balance. Once again, it's about knowing when to say something and knowing when to keep your mouth shut. It's about knowing if someone's being genuine and really wanting to learn and really wanting to know, or just making fun of you, being sarcastic, etc. So, Jen, yes, good idea. Good. She said, I've said that too, Karen. It's easy. So why not? And it is. And I love skirts and dresses. I can't even imagine. I feel so much prettier in them and so feminine. And I still need to watch it. But I noticed that our house, Karen just did an interview with, who's it, Madame Chic. And I have not watched much of her stuff, but the stuff I've seen is so good. Like, I've just seen a couple videos of hers. I do not have time to watch videos very often. So, and usually when I am, I'm just kind of listening. I saw one video of her where she had just had little clips of homemakers saying things. And I thought it was so good. And it was such a good video. And she is one that when I watch her, she just puts me at ease. Like, she's just so peaceful. Like, she exudes this calm. And that's how I want to be. That's what I aspire to be, because I can be very passionate about things that I believe in, and a lot like Peter in the Bible, but the female version. So I aspire to be someone very calm and cool and collected. So if you want, go check that video out. I'm going to get to it. I only saw one little snippet of it, but it looks really, really good. So yes, I have worn pants. I grew up wearing pants. I switched to skirts only about when I was 17 or 18. And then since I've been married at 20, I don't even own a pair of pants. So I only have skirts, and then I do nightgowns with like capris under them or something at home. So I don't even own a pair of jeans or a pair of pants or anything. So I like dressing this way. So that's just me. And that's true, Yvonne. I've noticed that too. I have noticed that men treat me differently. They're much more gentlemanly. In fact, one day I was dressed for church, and I walked by, we were in a restaurant after church, and I walked by a little boy and his dad, and the little boy was looking at me, and he was just like, "Oh, Dad, there is a lady." And his dad was like, "Yeah, son, you're right." But it was just so cute that even in the little boy's mind, like he saw me and he knew I was a lady. There's a lady, and I'll never forget that. So that's always stayed in my mind. And so I aspire to dress that way. Let's see. Sorry. Yes, I love Amazon. They have really cute maxi dresses and maxi skirts that are really cute. So someone asked tips for making the switch to more feminine dress. Well, if you're really all in and you really feel like it's a conviction, just ditch everything that you don't think is feminine. Get a big old bag, fill it up with your non-feminine clothes, and donate to Goodwill. If it's out of the house, you're not even tempted. Get into the habit of getting dressed every day. Get into the habit of, I have, if you notice, I'm kind of embarrassed by it, but I have a select few outfits that I wear a lot, and I kind of just rotate them. So I'm sure I've done a video in the shirt many, many times, same headband, but I'm very intrigued by the idea of a capsule wardrobe. I don't know if any of you have ever heard that, where you have just a few basic things and you rotate them, or you can switch up outfits, things like that. I'm very intrigued by that. So that is something I would like, because I have just, when you find something that's flattering, you kind of just want to stick with it. And that's kind of how I am. I stick to the same type of clothes. I stick to the dark colors with the florals. I tend to be drawn to the flowy, not the tight, shirts type things, and the flowy skirts. This is one of my favorite skirts. It's just a jean skirt. I don't know if you can see it. It's just a long jean skirt, but it's got the ruffles. And that's one of my favorite things. I like the flowy shirts that aren't, form-fitting. And I'm not saying please do not model your style after me, because I'm probably not a fashionista, but that's just my style. That's what I prefer. So I tend to stick to those type of basic styles. So find a style that you feel is flattering for you, and kind of look for clothes along those same lines. I have the exact same style of clothes I look for in all my thrift stores, and I very rarely try something that's different. So 6 million likes uniform clothes. And that's a nice thing too, Karen, when you don't, oh, nice. Karen says she has a video on School of a Female Charm and how to transition from pants to skirts. So check out that video. Karen, let me make you a moderator. Okay. And then you can add that link to your website. Please do that. So I just made you a moderator. So go ahead and add that link. If you want a link to the video, that's great too. But go ahead and do that so that women can refer back to that. So New Day Dawning. Dawn just said, I wore jeans all my life. I just recently started wearing dresses exclusively for a little over a year. My husband actually told me, I really like you in dresses. I never liked jeans. And I found that lots of men like dresses. They like, they like the feminine look, and they like their wives looking feminine and graceful and pretty. So, okay. So yes, Jen, and this skirt is great for just regular, or I wore it my whole pregnancy. It stretches. So maxi skirts are great for that. They grow with you. So that is great. All of Jen's dresses are great. because they have the nursing option, but they're also great for maternity as well. I look for dresses that are multifunctional like that, and skirts that are multifunctional like that. So Celine asks, do you ever feel like the devil will use your past to prevent you from living a Christian life and doing things for God? The devil can only use your past against you if you allow him to. I think the way that he can use your past against you is by putting doubt and feelings of low self-worth in your head. But if you have been saved later in life, you need to just leave the past and look forward to the future and realize that God has forgiven you and not dwell in all the baggage that you have. So I don't think my mom was saved later in life, and she did a lot of things she regretted when she was not saved. She wasn't saved until she was 26, I believe. She did a lot of stuff that she regretted, but she has gone on to live a victorious Christian life because she didn't let that bog her down. You know, she knew God had forgiven her. She accepted his forgiveness and she moved on with her life. So I definitely think that's one of the only ways that will allow that, if you allow him to, you know, put those feelings of doubt and low self-worth in your head. So just tell him he's a liar, you know, read some Bible verses about God's love and God's forgiveness, and then try to move on with your life. So, oh, good. Thank you, Karen. And then make sure you put the link to your website too that you started. That is I really like that website. And I haven't even had a chance to look at that very much either. So, okay. So what about when you give up drinking and drugs? Let's touch on this a little bit, because we had a question about giving the gospel to someone who had drinking or drugs. Going to parties with alcohol. You know that your family is going to have alcohol there. Do you go? Yes or no? Going to family functions that serve alcohol? Yes or no? Once again, I do think this can be a stumbling block to some and not others. For instance, if you've never struggled with alcohol, it's not going to be a temptation to you to go to some place that has alcohol. However, we've kind of drawn a hard line stance with this because we hate alcohol so much and we don't want our kids around it. And there's also verses about not looking upon the wine when it moved in the cup, when it's red or whatever. So we have taken a hard line stance with this. If we know that there's going to be alcohol served, we do not want to be there. We're uncomfortable around it. As far as like eating at places with alcohol, we don't even like going to places that have the word bar in them. That's our own personal preference. I mean, if we have to, we have to. It's not going to be the end of the world, but we try to just go to regular restaurants, maybe that have it, but don't have an actual bar in them, if that makes sense. We're just very uncomfortable around it. So that is going to have to be a standard that you decide on with your family, and, explain to your kids, we can't go to this family reunion because we know there's going to be drinking there. We really don't want you guys around it because alcohol's horrible. It makes people do horrible things. It might make them do stuff or say stuff that we don't want you to be around. So you can kind of explain that to your kids. If I've noticed, as far as like with me, I have unsaved cousins and unsaved aunts and uncles. We've never gotten criticism from it because we've always stuck to it. That's always just been our motto, and they just know that that's what we believe. And so no one really says or does anything about it. So exactly. Sorrow vision. Where do I draw the line on alcohol? Do I allow mouthwash? Yes. Do you use vanilla extract? Yes. I don't. This is where I draw the line on vanilla extract, though. I will buy real vanilla extract and use it. I will not buy alcohol to make my own. I won't even buy it. I will not buy pure alcohol at all. I draw the line there. Even if it's for baking, even if it's for cooking, not everyone has that standard. That's fine. That's just my own personal conviction. So, and when I look at things like cough syrup, mouthwash, and vanilla, I ask myself the question, can I get drunk off of those? No. If I got drunk off mouthwash, I'd have to drink like 3 bottles of Listerine or something. And I would probably be dead by the time that happens. So you have to use discernment. If you're going to get drunk off of alcohol or drunk off of mouthwash, then yeah, I don't even know how much you would have to drink to get drunk off of that stuff. So, yeah. Nice, Kirsten. Those are some good words. Go ahead and look at those, Kirsten Fisher. Yes, Jessica. And my kids will tell you how bad something is if they are around it. So they definitely will. What about when you under the influence of mouthwash? Yeah, I think that's kind of a stretch. So what about when you get criticized for going to church all the time? This doesn't happen with me either because my husband's a pastor. So obviously people know we're going to be there whenever the doors are open. But if you get criticized from your family, maybe you can tell them, well, I just got saved and I'm new to this and I want to learn all I can about Jesus and God and the Bible. And that's why I go. And, if you think about it, it's only 3 hours a week. So, how much more TV do people watch a week than 3 hours a week? So, just tell them I'm excited about going. I'm not being forced to go. They don't force me to go. This is my choice. I want to go and learn about Jesus and all this stuff. So that would be my response. If you have any other responses, go ahead and leave it in the chat. So Jessica said, I can get drunk off of cough syrup. Okay. I've never seen that happen, but hey, I guess maybe if you never drink alcohol and then you have something with a little amount, but then I'm wondering, could you get drunk off kombucha too? Because kombucha has a little bit of alcohol content and anything that's fermented does. Anything that's fermented. So kombucha has some in it. So could you get drunk off kombucha? And I know there's even mixed feelings about kombucha, but I'm pretty sure most people can't get drunk off kombucha. They would have to drink a lot of kombucha. So what about when it comes to standing for right, even when you're alone? Okay, you feel like you're all alone. You're the only one in your family who believes this way. Maybe you're the only one out of like all your siblings. I think it's probably harder when it comes to immediate family than like, say, cousins, aunts, and uncles. I'm blessed that most of my family, all my siblings are saved. We grew up in a Christian home. They do not see eye to eye with me on certain things, and that's fine, but we all get along because we've agreed to disagree. And, when it comes down to it, sometimes you're just going to have to agree to disagree. You don't have to make everyone see your point of view all the time. You can have your opinion and your point of view without, it doesn't need to irritate you that not everyone sees eye to eye with you. It's okay to have a difference of opinion. It's okay to feel differently than someone, and that's fine. You don't have to. I believe when people get to the point where they feel as if everyone has to see exactly and agree with them exactly 100% everything, that they're just insecure. It's an insecurity thing. So it's okay to have differences in opinion. It's okay for not everyone to see, eye to eye with you. So, sorry, I'm trying to see. Karen said, remember, I love Lucy with a vitamin. Oh yeah, she got truck off of it, didn't she? I forgot about that. That's funny. Wow, Jessica, that's crazy. Maybe it's because you just don't ever drink alcohol. Maybe it was a bad batch of cough syrup. That's crazy. That's funny. Okay, so, become fully persuaded in your mind about what you believe. If you feel like you're all alone, you need to be fully persuaded. Before you make a big change, make sure you're going to stick to it. It's going to be confusing to family and friends if you've always been one way growing up and then suddenly there's this drastic change. They're going to say cult. They're going to say, what's wrong with you? What happened to you? But can you imagine the disciples in Jesus's day? You got fishermen and you have physicians and you have all these jobs and they suddenly just leave everything to follow Christ, to become his disciple. Obviously, their family probably thought they were nuts. Maybe they were screaming cult back then, if they even had such a word back then. I know the Pharisees weren't happy about people following Jesus. That was one of the reasons they wanted him killed. They were upset that he was taking away from their influence. So notice, just know that this stuff it's not new. It's always been around. And getting flack for decisions of following Christ is nothing new. It happened to the disciples. In fact, almost all of them were martyred for the faith. So there's always been persecution. There's always been ridicule. But become fully persuaded in your own mind. Make sure that you are doing this because God has convicted you to do it based off what you've read in the Bible, based off of maybe preaching where your pastor has shown you from the Bible. Be fully persuaded in your own mind. Don't just flip flop and, well, this day I'm going to do this and this day I'm going to do that. And that's going to be even more confusing to your family. So, if you are growing and wanting to follow Christ and you decide to change some areas in your life, make sure that you're going to stick with it. That would be my biggest suggestion with that. So, realize sometimes that being a Christian can be lonely. It can be a lonely place. Sometimes you're going to think, is this worth it? But it will be when you get to heaven and you see the rewards that you gained for taking a stand, for following Christ. When you see that your children are becoming resolute in their standards, and it's not just your standard anymore, it's their standard as well. And it's not just your belief anymore, but it's their belief as well. When you see that start to happening, it's going to make everything worth it. It's going to make the struggles and the looks and the sneers and the comments and the sometimes hate, it's going to make it all worth it eventually. So Jen said, my family said, Colt, the problems arose when they started taking my kids aside and telling them we were wrong in our beliefs. Then we had to put up boundaries. I would have done the same thing. My family has pretty much, they are very good about not overstepping their bounds, even if they don't agree with me. And I think that if they were, I would definitely have to talk with them about it. So, your family should respect you enough to not go against your beliefs or say anything against your beliefs, even if they don't agree. My family, my parents and my in-laws are great about this. They've always been really good at asking us when it comes to movies, can they watch this? Do you allow this? They would never go behind my back and, well, I know your parents don't let you watch this, but that's stupid. It's an okay movie. There's nothing in it. And then show them that, they wouldn't do that. So I'm lucky enough that I have a family like that. If you don't, you might just have to not let them stay with them without your supervision. So that might be one of the lines that you have to draw. I'm sorry, Jen. She said, now we don't talk. So, but my in-laws are great. So we still talk to them, even though we don't agree on everything. That's good. Just remember, keep this in your mind. The world and the unsaved are not supposed to accept and love us. Christ was rejected. And once again, the message my husband, we didn't even know what each other was talking about, but his message was so good yesterday morning because it kind of just reemphasized all this, how Christ was perfect. Christ never sinned. Christ never did anything wrong. Yet they had false accusers against Christ saying horrible things about him. So, we're not supposed to be accepted by the world and the unsaved. We're going to appear weird to them at times. We're not going to appear normal, but just realize that that's something that comes with the territory. And I have realized that. Obviously, just doing this show gets me a lot of criticism, a lot of online hate sometimes because it goes against the grain of society. It goes against the grain of feminism. It goes against the grain of worldliness. And so that's obviously going to get criticism, and that's fine. I've learned just not to respond to it, if something upsets me, don't read it, don't watch it, whatever. So your life will be happier if you just ignore the haters. So, and Dawn, I'm glad you brought that up. She said, we had a lot of criticism from our family, yet they love the product of how respectful and loving our children are. And it's been the same way with a lot of mine too, because people will tell me, unsaved family or friends that maybe think I'm weird with how we raise our kids, how we homeschool, how they're in church all the time. They'll say, your kids are just so good. Your kids are great. Your kids are turning out so good. And I feel like saying, how do you think they got this way? It wasn't by accident. It wasn't like some good genetic pool where we just produce these great offspring that never disobey and, never, and my kids do disobey. So I'm not saying that they don't, but, are always respectful. No, it's training and it's us instilling our values in them. That's how we got these kids. So I have noticed that too, Dawn. That is really funny. So, Celine said, is it still possible to find a godly spouse after acting worldly? I have put that stuff behind me, but I feel like my chances are slim. Of course it is possible to find a godly spouse. There are men out there looking for someone that genuinely wants to serve the Lord and follow him with their whole life. So just the right one's out there for you. Just hang in there. Definitely don't give up. There is definitely someone out there for you. So yeah, Jen, and sometimes that happens. Realize that sometimes if you have to put up boundaries, it's going to result in relationships being damaged. But once again, if they were acting that way to your kids and going against you, telling your kids you were wrong, etc., then that sounds like a toxic relationship anyways, and it's not harmful sometimes to just cut off toxic relationships. We're not entitled to have toxic people around us. So your family's your priority. If someone's causing problems and coming between you and your husband or kids, it's time to cut the ties. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it is. You're not entitled to be close to someone who is causing drama in your life, who is causing friction between you and your husband or you and your kids. Your husband and your children are your priority. They're the ones that you need to focus on, not extended family, not other types of family like that. So should you confront your unsaved family about sin? What are your thoughts about this? Go ahead and leave the comments. Realize these are my thoughts and my opinion. I would say, first of all, you need to realize that they're unsaved, and they're not going to understand why you aren't okay with their sin. Okay, so now if it comes to something whereas you are inviting your unsaved family friends over to your own house and they want to bring alcohol, I would definitely say speak up and say, you are welcome to come to my house, but alcohol is not welcome. They need to know the guidelines. They need to know the boundaries of what your house offers. Now, if they are inviting you over and there's going to be alcohol there, you don't have the right to tell them not to have alcohol, but you do have the right to decline the invitation. And if they ask why, I would say, well, we have kids. We're trying to teach them the importance of not drinking. And since we knew that there would be open alcohol or wine there, we've decided just to skip your invitation. We love you, but we're not going to come over because of this. So I think in situations like that, it's fine. But also realize, don't cast your pearls before swine. And that's just, nuggets of truth that, they're not going to understand. So they're just going to trample over it. So I would definitely be careful about casting pearls before swine. So, let me see. Yeah, Janelle. She said she wouldn't unless they were doing something to me personally, and even then it would have to be a big deal. Yeah. Now I have spoken up when it comes to some of my siblings when it was big things that were going on in their life. I'm the oldest, so I kind of I've always been the leader in my home. And then when my dad died when I was 17, I really stepped up as well. And I kind of became my mom's confidant, and my mom would come to me to help with decisions. I was almost 18 when he did. So I was almost an adult. And so I've always had that mothering instinct with my siblings. And so I have addressed big things before that were going on. But when it comes to their everyday life now, I pretty much just stay out of it because they know where I stand. And the truth of the matter is most of your family, they know where you stand on things, and they probably don't want to hear it again. So, there is that. They could even watch my show if they really wanted to find out where I stand on things. I don't even think most of them do. But Morgan said, I only confront my mom. She doesn't think her sin is that bad, so I can't help it sometimes. And then Yvonne said, I don't with my family as they don't want or try to understand. And they usually bring up my past from when I was unsaved, so I get nervous about it. Well, it's because a lot of times when you confront people about their sin, they think that you're trying to act holier than thou, and that's why they want to throw your past in your face. Like, you used to do this, so why are you talking? So that's why you do have to be careful about that. You don't want to come across as holier than thou. But for me, I think there's a difference between coming across as holier than thou or really genuinely being nervous about my siblings' decisions and how the sin is going to affect the rest of their lives. And that's why I speak up when it comes to certain things, because I do feel like it's going to affect their entire life. And I want them to know I love them. And that's why I'm concerned. And that's why I'm saying something. Because honestly, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't truly believe that living a life where you're a disciple of Christ is the best life there is. And trying to get the sin out of your life is the best life there is. It'll lead to the most fulfilling life and the happiest life. And I truly believe that. And so if someone that I love is making decisions that I think is going to affect the rest of their life because of some big sin they're getting ready to do, then I'm going to speak up when it comes to that. So, and I think you have to look at relationships, how close you are. If it's someone that you're not very close with, obviously they're going to think that you're way out of lines for bringing up a personal thing, like, you're not agreeing with something they're about to do. So obviously I'm very close to my siblings. So that is what I would do. And then Kirsten said, I would confront about something like drugs or an abusive relationship, things the world sees as bad. I would not confront about Bible specific things like clothing and music. That is a good guideline. And I feel the same. That's what I was talking about with like the big sins, and obviously there is a difference in sins because some sins bring more consequences than others. Wearing a pair of pants is going to bring a less consequence from that than cheating on your husband, obviously. So, listening to worldly music is going to have a different consequence than becoming an alcoholic. So there are different, levels, I believe, of sins that will bring different levels of consequences. So if it's something very, very big, I'm going to speak up about that. So I like that. Okay, so what about giving the gospel to unsaved family and friends? So this is my personal opinion. Look for opportunities to present the gospel, but don't be overbearing if they aren't ready to hear it. If you're a new Christian, don't act like a know-it-all or constantly tell them you're going to hell if you don't get saved. You better get saved. You're going to hell. Things like that. So I would definitely, there's a line once again. I wouldn't be overbearing about it, but I wouldn't keep silent. Try to look for ways to bring it up. Or, even if it's just trying to send them a video, say, hey, I watched this really great video, this 7-minute video or this 10-minute video. You want to see it? It's really good if you want to know, and then, or if you're a newer Christian, say, I know you have a lot of questions about why I'm or what happened. Why is my life changing? Why does it look like I'm changing and my appearance is changing? Well, this is why. Can I just explain to you what happened to me? And then I've often noticed in times of crisis like this, look for opportunities because people are scared right now. People are scared of the unknown. They're scared of this virus. They don't know what's going on. Maybe they're nervous because they're thinking, what happens if I get it and I die? It's so unknown. Is there, an afterlife? What is it? And then they might actually come to you knowing that something happened in your life and you said you got saved, whatever that means. So they might come and ask you about it, and then you can then present the gospel to them. So look for opportunities, look for things like this where, maybe you can plant seeds or you can send videos or things like that. I've often found, Jen, that most people are receptive to videos and they'll take the time to watch a video because, as Karen and I have talked about before, familiarity breeds contempt. So I feel like sometimes if the same message is coming from someone that's not me, people take it better that are closer to me. Because honestly, people that are close to you, they know your faults, they know your struggles, they know everything like that. So they're going to be maybe more skeptical of things that you're saying. So if you have a video from someone else that you can send them, sometimes that helps. So what could be a consequence of wearing pants? Yeah, I don't know. That was just something I threw out there. I don't really know what a consequence could be of wearing pants. That was just a very minor example I threw out there. Let's use a better one like lying. Okay, lying versus adultery. Obviously, a consequence of lying is people aren't going to trust you. They're not going to know whether or not what you're saying is true. Whereas adultery, you're probably, your whole marriage is going to have to be completely overhauled in that situation. So yeah, wearing pants was a bad example. Nice, Yvonne. She said, my mom is an atheist and I sent her one of Pastor Jimenez's videos and she actually liked it and I was really happy. Yeah. And know your audience. Sometimes different pastors resonate with different people. Sometimes people like the really fiery pastors, and that's when you send them like a Pastor Major sermon or a Pastor Anderson sermon. And then some people like the more soft-spoken. When I say soft-spoken, I don't mean that they're easy on sin. They just have a different style, and that's fine. So that's when you send them a Pastor Jimenez sermon or a Pastor Burzen sermon. Or, my husband is a little bit more of one of the not quite as fiery. That's not his style. So you send him one of his sermons. So know who your audience is and know what type of video to send them. So maybe having men lust after you, wearing tight pants. Yeah, I guess that could be a consequence of it. Or leggings can be see-through. Yeah, and then you're having the whole sin of being showing nakedness. You never want to do that. So but, pray before you go to any family functions. Pray that God will open up opportunities for you to talk about it and give the gospel. Get comfortable. Like someone said earlier, get comfortable giving the gospel presentation. Go out soul winning and get really good giving it so that when you're put on the spot, you'll know exactly what to say. And you'll know exactly which verses. Most of the verses I use, I know which order I do them in, and I know them off the top of my head. And so I can kind of just do it from memory if I have to. I like having the Bible there, though, so they can follow along and see that it's not my words, it's the words. And plus, sometimes we mix up a word or two here, and I want to have the actual Bible in front of me so I don't mess those words up. But, if you do have it down so well that if you get put on the spot, you could just off the top of your head, give them the plan of salvation and lead them to the Lord that way. So okay, so the last thing, real quick, I'm going to go over because I'm out of time, dealing with saved family and friends who think you're crazy. Don't live in fear thinking that everyone's talking about you and hates you. Chances are they aren't talking about you. Chances are they don't hate you. They might think you're a little weird, but they probably don't hate you. You are not such a big deal in this world that people are constantly talking about you. So just get over yourself, basically. Stand your ground when it comes to your convictions, but don't be a jerk about it. You can stand your ground without being a jerk. And this is something I have learned because I do come off passionate when it comes to certain subjects. So I've had to learn how to tone that down and be a little bit more tactful, nicer Cassandra than just Joan of Arc warrior Cassandra. I've really, really had to tone that down when it comes to relationships. And, that just comes with maturity and realizing when to keep your mouth shut and when to speak up. That just comes with growing up and maturity. So don't constantly bring up controversial things. Some things we believe in are the meat of the word, and it's too strong for either weak or baby Christians or the unsaved. They're not going to understand it. The spiritual man discerns some things, but if they don't have the spiritual man, they only have the natural man, and you're trying to throw all the spiritual meat at them, they're not going to understand it. So just know, what level they're at, even if they are newly saved, know what level they're at and try to give them advice accordingly. Don't be thrown about with every winded doctrine. It will make you lose credibility. This goes back to what I was talking about. Don't flip-flop. If you're really going to confuse your family, it would be better for your family to see a slow, gradual change in your life than wham, everything overnight is different. You have all these hardcore standards and convictions and you're going to do them. And then a year later, you've dropped them all. That's going to be really confusing. It's going to turn them off to it. They're going to think that you just got caught up in a fad. Slow and sure and steady wins the race. Let them see that it's a slow, let them see your actions more so than your words. Let them see that it's a slow growth, but it's the real deal. It's there to stay. You're serious about it. You really love the Lord. You want to follow him and you want to do his commandments, and it's not going anywhere. So, even if you have family problems, don't be bashing them online. Keep it off social media. Keep it private. If you're constantly telling everyone, it's not going to help, or it's going to help end relationships. So because I am so public, I prefer to keep my private relationships private. I don't want people to be afraid of being close to me because they think they're going to be talked about, or all our problems are going to be aired on social media, or if we have a fight. If one of my friends and I have a disagreement, I don't go to other friends to kind of like see like, oh, where do you stand on this? Or, kind of gauge which way the wind is blowing or whatever. I like to go to my friends privately about things that I disagree with them and leave it there. I don't like using platforms of social media for things like that. I have one thing I have found doing all of this is that screenshots are forever, and people who hate us love it when there is infighting, and they will take screenshots of it and keep them forever. And sometimes relationships will be mended and everything is fine, but then they have screenshots of a time when an argument happened or when you said something against one of your family members or something. So I like to keep all family matters off of the internet. I like to keep all my relationships off of the internet. Most of my close friends I keep those relationships private, and I don't like talking about them too often because, like I said, just because I'm in the public eye, I don't want my friends to feel like they're not safe with me, because I like to feel safe in my friendships. And I like to know that whatever I tell my friends in confidence is going to stay in confidence between us. So that's my personal conviction with family things and social media. It's just not a good mix to be putting all your stuff on there, because even if you mend it with your family, someone screenshotted it. Someone saw the drama and they screenshotted it, and they'll have that forever. So just remember, whatever you put online will be there forever. So I always try never to say anything online that I wouldn't say in person. So if I would say it to your face, then I'll say it online. If I will I back up my words with my name. I only say things online backed up by my name, because that's how importantly I feel about it. So Kirsten said, my husband just said that the official reason Joan of Arc was burned at the stake was wearing pants. So that was a pretty serious consequence. There you go. I always liked Joan of Arc. I thought she was pretty spunky, and I'm pretty spunky. So I always liked that about her, but I didn't know that. I'll have to research. I'll have to read more about her now. So that's funny. Okay. So lastly, our main goal is to please Christ, not our family. It's going to be worth it in the end, even though it doesn't seem like it sometimes. And it is hard taking a stand and, sticking by your convictions and your standards. It's going to be worth it in the end. When we see Christ, it will be worth it all. All the struggles, maybe the persecution that's thrown your way. And we live in America. I mean, what persecution do we even have? Someone saying something nasty about us on Facebook. Come on. We're not under that much persecution living in America. So there, were martyrs in the past that were actually burned at the stake for not recanting or not giving, into the Catholics of the time. So, we have a strong legacy. Let's try as women of faith to follow in that legacy and not get burdened down with all this other stuff. So focus on your family, your immediate family, your husband, your children, and focus on your heart and doing things. And it's going to shine. It's going to shine through your interactions with your family. They're going to notice the difference, and they're going to ask you why. And then pray that God will give you a chance to get the gospel to them. So I hope that makes sense. So if you guys have any comments or anything to add, go ahead and leave it down below. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off, and thank you for almost the 40 of you that stuck around this whole time. Good job. Nice, loyal fans. So yes, and sign up for the GLS newsletter. I should get back to this week. Last week was really a hard week for me. I'll just put it that way. And honestly, by the time Friday rolled around, I felt like I had been living the same day over and over and over again, like in Groundhog Day. And I just didn't have it in me to write a newsletter because it was just a bad week and not much good happened. So this week I will definitely try to get another newsletter out, even though nothing is drastically changed again this week either. But I think it's going to be a better week. So anyways, keep your chin up, guys, in this coronavirus craziness, and hopefully it'll be over by the end of April. we can pray, right? So in the meantime, we have this small community of you to get together every Monday night. It's great just turning off all the stuff about the coronavirus and tuning in and talking with each other. I love it. So, yes, and I did just write a new article called Simply Trusting. If you want to check that out, just go to gentlyledsisters.com, and my blog posts are all there. I love to write. That is one of my pastimes. Reading and writing are my favorite. So that is all on there. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. We will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.